Well, a very good evening, Kenya. It is the second day of July 2019, and you're right in time for our broadcast tonight. It's also Tuesday, and Sidebar is lined up for you straight after the news, because right here on NTV, the news and the facts come first.
And on Sidebar tonight, legislators Gadoni wa Mushomba, Mwambu Mabonga, Edwin Sifuna of ODM, and Barack Muluka of ANC Party are sitting with me. The hashtag is NTV Tonight. We have all the stories making headlines both nationally and internationally for you. But first, the headlines.
Tonight, Kenya Power staff stand accused. More than 20 accused customers in Power Bills scam tell DCI KPLC staff recruited them.
Plus, former agriculture PS explains his damning statement.
I can really, be that shallow, and pedestrian.
Lesyampe now denies stealing from his purported enemies.
And Safaricom CEO Bob Collymore cremated in a very private ceremony. Michael Joseph takes over in the interim.
Also tonight, a tough challenge getting to school. Ndarago residents only link between two villages.
NTV Tonight with Ken Mijungu and Zeynab Ismail.
A very, very good evening and welcome to our broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno. And we begin tonight with the fraud at the Kenya Power Company involving Kenya Power staff, brokers and customers.
And owners of companies in the list of 200 companies and individuals under investigations and who have already been questioned by the DCI who have been implicated with the Kenya Power staff, claiming they made the first move in a scam that has seen the taxpayer lose millions of shillings.
And NTV's Seth Olale reports that 22 of them have already answered summons to appear before the Directorate of Criminal Investigations.
Directors of 22 entities and individuals have so far recorded statements at the DCI headquarters over the Kenya Power billing scandal. Among those interrogated by detectives from the Cybercrime Unit include directors of Sasini Coffee House Limited, Nairobi Women's Hospital, Dandora Catholic Church, Holy Cross Fathers, Restaurant Limited Grand Quality, Talent Graphics and Limited, General Bin Ali. Sources close to investigations have revealed that a majority of those questioned told detectives that they were approached by Kenya Power staff through brokers. The DCI, through a statement, says it is investigating allegations of fraud involving millions of shillings in Kenya Power in regards to the post-paid billing system through which funds were lost as a result of conspiracy between some Kenya Power staff, brokers and company consumers, in which over 5,000 benefited from the scandal. The entities and individuals implicated in the scam cut across the country's regions of Nairobi, Northeastern, North Rift, Central Rift, Coast, Western Kenya and South Nyanza regions.
Government also going just in circles. Sisi ndio tunaumia. We are paying paying for services we don't receive.
The 119 companies and 85 individuals summoned also include Safaricom Investments Cooperative Society, Moi University and Eldoret Polytechnic, among others. Seth Olale, NTV.
And from the high voltage billing scam at Kenya Power to the equally shocking admission by suspended Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Richard Lesyampe, who may have had his foot in his mouth when he, over the weekend, admitted to have stolen from the public.
And in an apparent justification for his action, Lesyampe said he stole, but for his people. He now says these remarks had been taken out of context, but as Leila Mohammed now reports, it may not be the first time that leaders have claimed to do bad things in the name of the people.
an old English myth putting a legend dubbed Robin Hood, who stole from the rich to give to the poor, is probably the analogy that comes out of a clip where former PS Richard Lesiampe is quoted saying that he is not sorry for taking money away from public coffers into his own hands and handing them down to his people, a quote that he says was now misinterpreted.
And in fact, even that day when I actually spoke, I even said, and you will remember I said in Samburu, that Etuapuro nano paeg, Etuapurucho nano, Etuapurucho, Sijeiba. I actually repeated it 3 times. And then the rider was that, which is usually, translated in our mother tongue, that, I've not done it. And if you think I've done it, accuse me then.
But even though he denies ever admitting to theft,
The
weight of this statement still looms as a shadow over him.
When somebody says that, I've admitted stealing, while I've not been taken to court for stealing, there's no charge preferred against me on stealing, it's also ridiculous. Because there's no way I can actually admit something which I've not been charged of. In fact, I've not been charged of stealing. In fact, if anything, why I'm there is because of a budgetary issue.
The man who was the chief accounting officer at the Agriculture Ministry when he was suspended under a cloud of graft allegations against him says this statement was only meant to endear him to the people he was addressing.
30 years that I have been in government and private sector. And, there's no way I can really, be that shallow, and pedestrian to actually say in public that, I've grown big because of eating from other people.
At a time when the government is on the offensive in the war on graft, many have interpreted his statements as an overt glorification of impunity that has permeated the society. Many of those who step aside after facing graft allegations often seek public office. Others arrested over graft claim to be persecuted, terming the war on graft as a witch hunt. Lesiampe has denied the charges against him in court. He now says only the law will vindicate him. But his weakened sentiments may linger a while longer. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
And as Leila Mohammed is reporting, it's not the first time that a leader is saying or making such a claim in the name of the people. And this is one of the topics that we are putting into context on Sidebar, coming right after the news. So stay here and listen to what my panelists have to say about stealing in our name or doing something in the name of the people. Let's now move on to other stories. And Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, his Treasury counterpart Kamau Thuge, and former National Lands Commission Chairperson Mohamud Swazuri are the faces behind the illegal payment of 1.5 billion shilling compensation for the Roraka land.
Now, the three are said to have helped process the payouts without following due process and resulted in the loss of taxpayers' funds. NTV's Silas Apollo reports on the scandal which just won't die, but which the courts now say could have been avoided.
It is a dispute that dates back years and now puts three senior government officials who are part of the scheme to award billions to a businessman illegally on the spot. Three judges of the Environment Court say Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, Treasury PS Kamau Thuge, and former National Lands Commission Chairman Mohammed Swazuri are the three who okayed the payments. The judges fault Swazuri for failing to carry out due diligence on the land before authorizing compensations, saying that a thorough search would have shown that the land was public property. The court argues that Swazuri's decision to start the compensation process based on a need to correct historical injustices was suspect, since one cannot purport to compulsory acquire what is already public land. Swazuri is accused of misleading the Ministry of Education into undertaking the acquisition that the court says was unnecessary. This is despite the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Education at the time insisting on due diligence. Thuge, on the other hand, is said to have written to Kipsang, giving the green light for the payment of 1.5 billion shillings for the compensation. The Roraka land, on which Drive-In Primary School and Roraka High School sits on, has been at the center of a dispute pitting the ministry and businessman Francis Mburu. Mburu is said to have asked the government for a refund of the 13.77-acre parcel of land, which he says was taken away from him in the 80s. NLC moved to court last year to determine the validity of the title of the said land and whether the two schools sit on private land. And on Friday, the three judges say that NLC did not follow elaborate steps as stipulated in the Lands Act. They argued that no explanation was given by the companies which were compensated as to why they did not pursue the compensation in the 80s when the schools were established. That decision by the court on this parcel of land add to the many scars that have marred the career of former NLC chairman Mohamed Swazuri. Only that this time it adds two more people to that list. One only hopes that investigating agencies will step in and that justice will prevail. Silas Apollo, NTV, in Ruaraka, Nairobi County.
Right, with the legal opinion rendered, the obvious question is, what next, especially for that compensation? You know, a lot of people are thinking, what happens to the money that was paid out? Silas Apollo trying to answer the question, and of course it will be important to see what happens in the coming days. Now to that update on the death of Safaricom Chief Executive Officer, and it was a modest send-off for celebrated Safaricom Chief Executive Officer Bob Collymore, who was cremated in Kariakoo at a private ceremony.
Only family and invited guests were allowed into the premises that was heavily guarded. Collymore died of cancer of the blood yesterday morning, and NTV's Sharon Baranga has the details.
At the Lee Funeral Home, family, friends and some colleagues of Safaricom's Chief Executive Officer Bob Collymore gathered for the final walk home. The last call and the last tears of a man who was as himself in death as he was in life. The last rites took place at the Kariakoo crematorium. A bond severed when the sons of his time ran out in the early hours of Monday after a long and valiant battle with cancer. Collymore sought treatment and underwent a series of tests in some hospitals within the country before his doctor referred him to a hospital in London where he was diagnosed with cancer. At the Kariakoo crematorium, only invited guests were allowed inside to pay their last respects, as it was a private function. Security manning the area ensured only those on the list of invites accessed the place. His body was then cremated.
Nimesikitua muno kwa usikia Collymore ameaga dunia. Alikuwa akihudumia msuli kwa Safaricom.
Collymore's memorial service will be held on Thursday at the All Saints Cathedral. He leaves behind his wife and 4 children.
Now, I'm going to challenge
Sharon Baranga, NTV.
and Jacob.
And in the meantime, Safaricom has picked its former Chief Executive Officer, Michael Joseph, as the company's interim CEO following the passing on of Bob Collymore yesterday.
But as Victor Kiprop now reports, Safaricom's board will have a tough call to make in choosing the next chief exec amid piling pressure from the government to have the telco pick a Kenyan as its head.
When he retired as Safaricom CEO in 2010, Michael Joseph had never imagined he would someday return to the helm of Kenya's most profitable company. But the death of his successor, Bob Collymore, would force the board to once again seek the services of the 67-year-old corporate titan.
Although the details of Bob's worsening condition were not always, they were private, they were not always being discussed at board level, but the board was aware that sooner or later we needed to organize succession for Bob.
In his 10 years at Safaricom, Joseph helped turn the company from a startup into one of the most profitable firms in the region, building its subscriber base to more than 16 million from just 17,000. But his successor, Bob Collymore, took the company to even greater heights, having raked in 63.4 billion shillings in net earnings for the full year ended March 2019, a figure larger than the profits of the country's top 4 banks combined. The Kenyan government, the second largest shareholder in the company with a 35% stake, is pushing to have a Kenyan as the next CEO of the firm, something that is unprecedented.
Safaricom hasn't yet disclosed for how long Michael Joseph will be serving in the acting capacity, but one thing is for sure, the entire country will be watching closely to see who will be picked to fill the big shoes left behind by Bob Collymore. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business, Naro.
Of course, all eyes are on Safaricom right now, and two expatriates have proven themselves beyond reasonable doubt worthy to be at the helm of East Africa's most profitable company, that is Safaricom. While one steered the company from inception, the other took the reins and drove innovation through data, mobile money and e-commerce.
The foundation has been laid, the direction mapped out, the strategy in place, and the vision could not be clearer. But who will be next in line for Kenya's most prestigious corporate position? Well, will it be a Kenyan, or will the company still bank on the expertise of expatriates? And does it matter who heads this telecommunications behemoth?
Well, to have the answers to all these questions, grab your copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow for expert analysis on the succession battles at Safaricom.
Well, definitely hope to catch your copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow for more details on that. Now, Taita Taveta Governor Granton Samboja becomes the second governor in Kenya's contemporary history of devolution to petition the president to dissolve his county.
Now, Granton accuses the county assembly of wielding its oversight role as a weapon to bend the county's executive to its will. He, however, is not the only governor who has opted to pull the plug on the whole system.
An apt illustration of devolution's checkered legacy amid fears that unfettered powers by the MCS could be killing devolution.
I, Honorable Granton Samboja, the governor of this great county, duly elected by the majority of the voters in the last general election, in utmost humility, call upon all the residents of this county to turn out in large numbers and show solidarity in the quest to petition His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya to dissolve our county government to give us a fresh start.
Caught between a wall and a cliff, Governor Granton Samboja claims to have been pushed over the edge by a band of money-grabbing members of the Taita Taveta County Assembly.
I call upon every voter to assist me salvage our great county from our very own county assembly members who have done everything possible to stand on our way of development.
What are they hiding? So that they can meet with guns and shoot citizens of Makueni.
Governor Samboja isn't the first to resort to the nuclear option because the centre would not hold. Makueni Governor Kifutha Kibwana in 2014, unwilling to stomach constant threats of impeachment by a county assembly he felt was doing more harm than good for the people they were elected to represent, also pulled the trigger. The very same threats Governor Samboja claims have been made against him and his entire executive committee for failing to keep the MCAs happy. Threats of impeachment against governors are nothing new when the legislative and executive arms fail to see eye to eye on how the county pie should be shared out.
Order! Leave in silence! Order!
This was evident on Tuesday afternoon when members of the Harambee County Assembly disrupted the assembly business to force the county executive to allocate monies for bursaries. Samboja, at the end of his rope, says he will not be blackmailed into allocating 830 million to the County Ward Development Fund and would rather see an end to the county government. An assertion met with contempt by the MCAs he's accused of being a hindrance to progress.
I'm not happy at all about what he's doing. Na aelewe kwamba sisi tuko ground. Yeye aendelee kufanya his political gimmicks na side shows, lakini we are just intact. The funny part of the governor is that what is not understanding, tumeshikilia kisu. Yeye naye anataka kutupokonya kisu, ameshikilia pali sharp. What is going to happen? Vidole vyake ndio vitakatika.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
Well, interesting views from the MCAs and the governor. Very interesting. And the unending wrangles between those governors and the members of the county assemblies in various counties has proven to be a hindrance to the running operations within the counties.
But do we really know the exact roles of the MCAs? Well, according to Section 9 of the County Governments Act, MCAs are responsible for maintaining close contact with the electorate and consulting them on issues before or under discussion in the county assemblies.
Now, they are also supposed to present their views, opinions and proposals of the electorate to the county assembly. They are also expected to attend sessions of the county assembly and its committees to provide a linkage between the county assembly and the electorate on public service delivery and to extend professional knowledge, experience or specialized knowledge to any issue for discussion in the county assemblies.
So that's what you should expect of your MCA.
And the stalemate over the 2019-2020 Kisumu budget estimates has taken a new twist after Kisumu Deputy Governor Matthews Owili accused the County Assembly Speaker Onyango Olo of inciting the Assembly members to disapprove the budget estimates.
And Zoko Kusa now reports the row has continued even as Governor Anyang' Nyong'o's government stared at a financial crisis following the delay in approval of the 10 billion shillings budget.
We are aware that the process of making this particular budget has been hampered greatly because of the insistence of the Speaker.
The tough-talking Owili told off the Speaker, whom he accused of demanding that the executive allocates 600 million shillings to construct an ultra-modern assembly.
We shall not involve ourselves in illegalities to massage one person's ego, whose intention are clearly or is clearly not for the common good of the people of Kisumu.
Olo had given the Finance Executive Officer, Neri Achar, up to today to furnish the Budget Committee with a list of pending bills as at June 30th, 2019. He directed that the Executive present a detailed list of contractors, projects undertaken, year awarded, and amount to be paid.
These demands are for the good of our county because as the people's representatives, whatever decision that we make must be that put the county towards a growth trajectory.
However, the DG maintained that the executive was committed to a budget-making process that complied with the relevant laws.
We are also aware that the Speaker is currently having issues that is in public domain that have been raised about him by the EACC, and at this point I want to advise him that is not the person better placed to advise the executive on anything corruption.
But in a quick rejoinder, a section of MCS faulted the DG for making what they termed as disparaging remarks against them.
And some people were just flower girls who were the other day were made to be deputy governor because if the ticket was not done by the Honorable His Excellency the Governor, could not even be elected as even a chair of a cattle dip. They have never stood anywhere to win any election.
Another area of contention is the donor support fundings or grants.
We are aware that there are some grants that are not disclosed. And when we touch them and appropriate them in a different way, we get concerns from different quarters that we are doing the wrong thing. So, before we pass the budget, we want to see all the conditional grants Kisumu County government is getting and what the functions they are doing.
But according to the executive, most of the donor support fundings are ring-fenced at the agreement signing stage, and therefore it is impossible to interfere or reallocate the monies to other projects. Okokusa, NTV.
And following those unending wrangling between MCAs and county governors, we're asking tonight on our opinion count question, do you believe MCAs are the biggest impediment of the success of devolution? I ask again, do you believe MCAs are the biggest impediment to the success of devolution?
And of course, you can participate in our broadcast by joining the conversation at NTV Kenya on Twitter, at Zeynab Ismail, at Ken Mijungu, and the hashtag we're using tonight is NTV Tonight. So join the conversation, share with us your opinion. We'll definitely be sampling some of them before the end of this live broadcast. But time now for a short break. But coming up on the other side, a delicate balancing act and the tough challenge of getting to school for the children of Ndaragwa.
AMG Realtors presents you Heaven's Fist.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno, and there is news just in for us, Ken.
All right, news just in from State House and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is that His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta has appointed Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, the former Vice President of Kenya, as a special envoy to the Republic of South Sudan. This appointment is in furtherance of Kenya's commitment towards shared prosperity in the region and in general, and to the pursuit of lasting peace and security in South Sudan through the acceleration of the implementation of the revitalized agreement on conflict resolution in South Sudan in particular. Now, this is the appointment of Dr. Kalonzo Musyoka from President Uhuru Kenyatta this evening as a special envoy to the Republic of South Sudan. You know, this is not the first time Kalonzo is doing work in South Sudan. Actually, he was very instrumental in peace building that led to even the independence of that country. So it's not the first time.
All right, and definitely a story will continue to keep you updated on. But away from that, residents from Kahuda and Ngameni villages in Ndaragwa constituency of Nyandarua County have called on the government to move with speed and erect a bridge that connects the two villages crossing River Pesi.
Anxious parents hold their breath and whisper a prayer for their children as they go to school in the morning and in the evening when they come back.
There is no proper bridge, so children have to walk in groups as they cross the bridge early in the morning. And as Rose Wangui reports, it's quite the delicate balancing act.
At the crack of dawn, with most of the sky still dark, children in the sleepy village of Ndaragwa constituency prepare themselves for a treacherous walk to school. With their books stashed in backpacks, the children walk down the valley to and from home, but the excitement fades and turns into fear when they reach River Pesi, a river that snakes between rocks and heavy vegetation in the village separating Kahuta and Ngamini villages. They walk in groups, and as they come nearer, the path narrows, forcing them to form a single file towards the tree bridge. Here, they hold hands as they cross sideways to the other side. The brave ones carry the smaller children on their backs. They cross the bridge when the log is wet with dew, and it is easy to slip and fall. Good balance is essential for getting to class. The children are pupils at Wangoi Primary School.
Wazazi ni lazima wasidikishe watoto wao kuwapeleka shuleni.
Our pupils who are more than 30 who come from the other part of the river normally come late. Sometimes do not come when the river overflows during the rainy season, and they suffer a lot.
Hapa kuna wakati mwingine unakuta hata watoto wameanguka hapa kwa mto. Tunaenda kuwatolea huku nje, huku chini.
Residents claim that a footbridge that they were using to cross the river passes through a privately owned land.
And right now he wants his rod back. So this is the only option which is left.
Residents claim that the county government of Nyandarua had allocated 5 million shillings for the construction of a bridge at the site, but the cash was diverted to another project. For now, they have to contend with this reality and cope with the situation as they await the government to come to their rescue. Mijungu, NTV.
And we hope certainly something can be done as quick as possible.
It's very risky even for the children, and they have the courage of a lion just to go over that bridge. And the fact that the parents have to say a prayer, you know, every day, I think it's very practical when it comes to kids. Right, let's get some news from the corridor of justice. And blogger Robert Alai Onyango could face a life sentence for publishing photographs of police officers who were killed in an attack in Wajir last month.
The controversial blogger, who has been under investigation by the Anti-Terrorism Police Unit, denied 2 counts of treachery and disclosure of information against the law.
He was released on a 300,000 shilling cash bail after being in detention for 14 days. On the 17th of June, the blogger shared a photograph of a dead police officer on social media, an act which the prosecution says was meant to interfere with the maintenance of public order within the country.
He is also accused of disclosing information about a dead officer to the public via Twitter, an act that was likely to prejudice the investigations.
Now, his case will be heard on the 8th of August.
And still in courts and away from the courts, Kenya is locked in another territorial dispute, this time with South Sudan over the mineral-rich disputed Ilemi Triangle.
Leaders from Kenya and South Sudan have set up a joint cooperation mechanism to ensure the long-standing border dispute between the two states is resolved amicably and diplomatically.
This follows constant feuds between the Toposa community of South Sudan and Kenya's Turkana community. The leaders are now calling on both governments to fast-track the implementation of the agreed border framework, as well as design and implement joint cross-border development programs.
The two countries would want to use the available instrument, which is the MOU that has been developed, to now enable us amicably define that border. And I want to assure you, with the process we are now taking, the two countries, with the leadership of the two presidents, will deliver a solution.
The border is known, and I'm sure Kenya have their map, and also South Sudan have a map. But these issues are all brought by the communities along the borders, because you know all African border countries were demarcated by the colonials without consulting the communities.
Right, time now for another break, but coming up,
we tell you why the shilling is losing value against the dollar.
Jumia anniversary sale is live now. Amazing deals on your favorite brands. Get this promo.
It is time to get down to business. Welcome, I am Julian Amboko, and let's start on the foreign exchange market. The shilling's exchange to the dollar averaged 102.7 units on Tuesday, pushing it to its lowest point since the start of January 2018. This puts the loss of value since the start of the year, that is 2019, at 1 percentage point, with a significant loss having taken place since the decline of foreign exchange reserves on June 24, 2019. This trend of depreciation shifts focus to the Central Bank of Kenya, which is set to hold its Mid-Year Monetary Policy Committee meeting on the 24th of this month. And moving on, the counties of Isiolo, Tana River and Siaya have been ranked as the top 3 counties flouting procurement laws in the country. According to a report by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, none of the 30 county governments assessed have been complying with the procurement law. The authority also ranked National Museums of Kenya and the Sacco Society's Regulatory Authority among the corporates that have not submitted their procurement records. Lillian Carrier with more details on that story.
The report by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority outlined 12 counties and 9 parastatals which are flouting public procurement laws. The performance of Kilifi, West Pokot, Kitui, Kajiado, Elgeyo Marakwet, Garissa, Machakos, Tharaka Nithi and Marsabit County was also below 50%.
Lack of procurement plans. 2, non-adherence to the procurement plan.
Narok County was the only one ranked as partially compliant with a score of 80.3%, while 17 other counties, among them Mombasa, Kwale, Nyamira and Meru, were ranked as marginally compliant.
You want to give preference to persons with disabilities, to women, to disadvantaged and marginalized sectors of our community. How is that person going to survive if they actually succeed in a tender, win government business at whatever level, and then they are starved of money for 3 years?
The report for the 9 months between June 2018 to March 2019 ranked the National Museums of Kenya and the Sacco Society's Regulatory Authority among the state corporations which were non-compliant.
The audit, which only involved 30 counties, saw some of Kenya's richest counties missing out. This include Nairobi, Nakuru and Naivasha. The authority now says that they will include this in the next financial audits. Lillian Kiarie, NTV.
And on to matters aviation, Kenya Airways has entered into a partnership agreement with General Electric Aviation to adopt its flight operations suite of digital products across the airline's fleet. The flight operations suite is a technology that integrates various operational data, including flight details, weather forecast and navigation, among others, and is expected to enable KQ to track its operations and fuel consumptions in order to cut on costs. Fuel expenses are estimated to take about 30% of KQ's total expenditure. And getting back to matters counties, now the counties of Kakamega and Machakos have passed their budgets worth 14.9 billion and 12 billion shillings respectively, even as disbursements of funds from national government remains uncertain. In the last full year report from the Controller of Budget, Kakamega's on-source revenue stood at 4% of the total expenditure, while that of Machakos stood at 14%, raising question about the ability of counties to meet their operational expenses given the delay of disbursement of funds from the national government. Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya has expressed confidence that the stalemate will be resolved, and on his part, his Machakos counterpart, Governor Alfred Mutua, has called for prudent use of resources.
There is no need of the county assembly working very hard, the executive working very hard, our budgets being worked very hard, and then they are stolen. So we will have to be very careful to ensure that there is value for money.
And you can get more on that story from tomorrow's Business Daily. But moving on, the Board of National Bank of Kenya says that the various operational challenges it has been facing arise not from poor management, but from undercapitalization. The bank says it has a strong liquidity at 20% above the regulatory minimum, but its capital ratios are below the regulatory minimums. The board has put the bank's two principal shareholders, that is the National Treasury and the National Social and Security Fund, on the spot for failing to inject fresh capital at its time of need. Further, the board says the non-performing loans ratio has increased due to a decline in the total loan book as a result of capital limitation. The bank has admitted that for the last 5 years, it has had capital adequacy challenges. These revelations are contained in the bank's response to the National Assembly's Committee on Finance and National Planning on matters pertaining to the proposed merger with KCB. And finally, Kenya is looking towards partnering with South Sudan in providing renewable energy solution for Africa's youngest nation. Kenya is hopeful that the Juba government will be inclined to collaborate with Kenya as it seeks renewable energy solutions for its citizens. President Salva Kiir led a delegation of South Sudanese officials on a tour of the 10-acre Mai Mahiu dry port land and the Olkaria geothermal wells in Naivasha, Nakuru County. Kenya is Africa's leading geothermal energy producer and is among the top 10 globally.
A technology that was spearheaded by Kengen, and this now...
And up next, we have the financial report. And that's all from the business desk tonight, but still to come. We tell you why Indonesia is pushing back against the torrent of waste from Europe and the US. Stay with us.
I see trees of green, red roses.
And welcome back. Time now to cross the borders internationally. And these are the other news making headlines around the world. A wall has collapsed, killing 27 people following heavy rains in India as bad weather disrupts rail, air traffic and road in the capital of Mumbai.
Now, Mumbai struggles to cope with annual monsoon rains as widespread construction and garbage-clogged drains and waterways make it increasingly vulnerable to chaos.
India experiences a fatal incidents of buildings and walls collapsing as rainfall weakens the foundations of the poorly built structures.
A similar incident on Saturday claimed 15 lives.
And 49 containers which were loaded with a combination of garbage, plastic waste and hazardous materials were returned to France and other developed countries as Southeast Asian nations increasingly reject serving as dumping grounds for international trash.
Around 300 million tons of plastic are produced every year, according to the Worldwide Fund for Nature, with much of it ending up in landfills or polluting the seas in what has become a growing international crisis.
Let's take a look at an example like China's decision in 2018 to ban imports of foreign plastic waste through global recycling into chaos.
Well, the national football team was thrashed by Senegal in its last AFCON group match in what is going to come up in just a moment.
Right, that coming up after the break, and find out how the players have gotten a treat to ease the pain.
FIFA Africa's Zone 5 champions. For their historic win, the Morans bagged tickets to the Afro Basketball Championships to be staged in Mali later this month, as well as the 2019 Africa Games to be held in Morocco in August. To ice the cake, a Denmark-based professional Tyler Okari was named the championship's most valuable player. The women's national team, the Gazelles, finished second and booked an Afro Basketball Championships ticket in Senegal. Now, Ivory Coast captain Geoffroy Serre deflected a thunderbolt that aided his side to emerge 4-1 winners over Namibia, and that's our goal of the day.
Long-range effort from Serre. Oh, it's a wonderful strike. Took a wicked deflection. And Serre, the captain, makes it 2-0 for the Côte d'Ivoire. Fine strike on him, and the Ivorian fans jumping with joy. And that makes sense, really. When he's given too much space.
All right, just to let you know that Harambee Stars failed to make it to the last 16 of the Africa Cup of Nations. They failed to make it among the 4 best losers at the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. But the team was today treated to a luncheon by the River Nile in Cairo. The sports...
Harambee Stars 3-0 loss to Senegal in their last tie in Group C of the Africa Cup of Nations laid bare the gaps in Kenyan football in comparison to the top-ranked teams in the continent.
I'm disappointed because every time a coach wants to win.
A luncheon hosted by the sports CS Amina Mohamed and Kenyan ambassador to Egypt Geoff Otieno by River Nile eased the Stars players of anxiety of waiting to know if they have made it to the round of 16.
We never planned to be here for 2019. We said that it was a bonus for us. But look, when we got there, we stepped forward and did a good job. I think the players also did well. We had a lot of things to learn from. Kenyans have to accept that. It's a process.
It's good homework for us. We need to improve the facilities. And I think that it did not take us coming to Cairo to do that. We knew, right, while still at home, that we need to improve the infrastructure. I think I understand that it's a journey. It's a journey.
Kenya's chances of qualifying as one of the best group stage losers now lie in the mercy of Mali and Cameroon, who are set to play their closest challengers Angola and Benin respectively.
Tumecheza against unajua quality opponents Algeria, Senegal. So it's a learning process unajua for everyone in this team. Na tuna hope with this experience itatusaidia even in our upcoming matches. Na let's just continue being positive and work hard.
We've learned a lot as a team, and it's difficult, you know. We need to learn fast and then go ahead, because now we don't have another. Maybe we don't have another chance. We don't know if we have another chance, but we know for sure in the future we'll have another qualification, and hopefully we can cut off the things that we did badly.
A first-time experience for the 23 players, lessons the Harambee Stars will carry, even as they seek to keep alive hopes of a 2021 Africa Cup of Nations participation and perhaps the World Cup in 2022. Brian Otwal, NTV, reporting from Cairo, Egypt.
All right, just to let you know, of course, Harambee Stars are officially out of the running to advance to the round of 16, as we just mentioned a moment ago. And that was as one of the 4 best third-place teams. And that followed Benin's goalless draw with Cameroon in Group F at the Africa Cup of Nations. In the other Group F game, 2 second-half goals from Jordan Ayew and Thomas Partey ensured Ghana advanced to the knockout stage as Group F winners, despite poor second-round results. Angola play Mali and Mauritania take on Tunisia at 10 p.m. in the final round of group games. The tournament will then take a 2-day break and resume on Friday for the knockout stage. World Half Marathon. Country has received a 14.35 million shilling sponsorship from Stanbic Bank. In the new arrangement, the hosting clubs will each receive 1.4 million shillings, up from the 1 million received last year. Additionally, the players will compete for a total combined purse of 1.25 million shillings over 6 legs.
The fact that they are willing and able to commit for 2 years signifies that they have found the partnership to meet their objectives.
Defending champion Carl Flash Tundo, the African Championship leader Manvir Barian and rally legend Ian Duncan will lead the Kenyan charge at the 2019 Safari Rally. The rally, which is a test event for the World Rally Championship status, has today received a 50 million Kenya shilling sponsorship from KCB. The quest to return the Safari Rally to the World Rally Championship revs off on Friday at the Kasarani Stadium, with President Uhuru Kenyatta conducting the ceremonial flag-off.
We've learnt our lessons. We have known the cost of dropping out, so we intend not to drop out.
52 entries have been confirmed for the event that also doubles up as the 4th round of the Africa Rally Championship. In what is good news, the Safari Rally has attracted interest globally, not just from fans, but also manufacturers competing in the WRC.
4 works teams, WRC teams, will be sending their crews here for recce. That's Toyota, Hyundai, Citroen, and M-Sport, or Ford.
This year's Safari, which will be a 2020 World Rally Championship candidate event, has the support of the government to the tune of 300 million shillings, given that the return of the Safari to the WRC was a Jubilee Party campaign promise. In addition, the head of the Presidential Delivery Unit, Nzioka Waita, will be competing, and he'll be navigated by former NTV business anchor and reporter Laban Cliff on Serio.
Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ataweza kufika pale katika uga wa Kasarani kuweza kuanzisha rasmi mashindano hayo.
Corporate sponsors are also racing to be part of history, and KCB has put in 50 million Kenya shillings to the event.
It's had a beautiful and rich history, and as a brand that is part of this region and that has been around for over 100 years, we thought it was a perfect partnership.
The reconnaissance for the drivers and navigators will be held on Wednesday and Thursday, with the event getting underway on Friday with a super special spectator stage around the Kasarani complex. Brazil battle with Argentina early Wednesday Kenyan time in the first Copa America semi-final. And to add spice to the age-old rivalry, the semi-final match will be played at the same ground where Brazil lost 7-1 to Germany in the 2014 World Cup semi-final.
Brazil Copa America 2019 in association with Star.
that. And of course, earlier on, we asked you the question on our opinion count. Do you believe members of County Assembly are the biggest impediments to the success of devolution? The question is, are the MCAs the biggest impediment to devolution?
And of course, we've got quite a number of opinion and answers on our social media platforms. We're going to sample some of those. And at Man Jenga saying, MCAs have and will never be a hindrance to devolution. The governors have the cake and always apply any available tactic to make the MCAs yawn more. Referendum is the way to go. We need it to drive some sense in the governors and the MCAs. At Hillary Cheruyot saying no, actually they have been encumbrance to governors who want to purloin resources set aside to common mwananchi. MCAs to us at the ground are our watchdogs.
Right, and for you who say they believe they are the biggest impediment, Jackson Mbeti says, personally, I believe MCAs are a hindrance to the success of devolution due to self-interest and greed. Some are elected to enrich themselves, nothing else after that. And finally, Mbugus Waringa from Gatundu South says, yes, for me, since I voted for my MCA in 2017, I've never seen him. I don't know even if he does exist. MCA positions are a waste of our resources. The government is biting more than it can chew because of the MCA's position.
All right, and those are your remarks. Continue sending us more feedback on our social media platforms. The conversation online continues, and this is where we wrap up our NTV tonight. But remember, Sidebar is coming right up your way, and a very fiery panel I can see well. My name is Zeynab Ismail. Our sign language interpreter this evening was Flora Atieno. Good night.
All right, thanks Zayn very much. And of course, it's time for Sidebar, and my guests are already in studio. Let me introduce them, and I'm just disappointed to learn that Gathoni Wamushomba, who we expected to be here with us this evening, is not coming for the show, so it's a real disappointment. But I have the gentlemen here, Edwin Sifuna, Mheshimiwa from Bumula, and of course Barak. They are here to discuss several issues. Key among them, I know you want to hear about this, that assassination allegations against the deputy president. Apart from that, we'll be discussing the developments in the world of politics, what's happening, and of course the handshake must feature prominently in this. We'll be asking the right questions and they'll be answering those questions. Stay with us. Sidebar is back in a moment.